What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and tonight I have a fantastic episode in store for you guys. We're going to be talking about a whole lot of things that have gone down in the sports world, and I'm going to be frank with you guys. I have been away for a little bit. I kind of took last week off. I'll explain that in just a little bit, but we're going to talk some NFL, some NBA, and some MLB news. But before I do that, I want to introduce tonight's guest. He is the sports director here at WJMF Radio, and he is on the call for our football games, basketball games, you name it. He's really the man with this. He does a great job, and he's been a guest on the show before, so I'm glad to have him back on tonight. Zeke Kransdorf, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be a guest yet again. You know, the first time was great, really welcoming environment. So I'm just glad to be back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm glad to have you back. Obviously, like I said, we got a ton to talk about tonight, but first of all, I have to acknowledge my absence. I was away last week because I had a very interesting opportunity presented to me. I had the privilege of being able to interview Red Sox pitcher Nathan Eovaldi. Let me tell you, that was a fantastic thing. Thank you to SPB and all the people that put that together, like Brittany Murtaugh, Carter Santos, Becca Giacvoni, Brianna Beelan, all those people. Like, they did a fantastic job. And if I missed someone, I'm sorry. Like, just know that I'm thankful for all that you did. But it was a fantastic opportunity. Got to talk with Nate for like an hour beforehand, kind of just like have some casual talk with him. And, he kind of gave me some insight, not on like anything like super controversial or anything, but he kind of just like you were kind of able to look into the lens of a major leaguer and get that perspective. And let me tell you, that was a very cool thing to have.
I can only imagine. I mean, just being in the audience for the Matthew Slater event last year, just kind of getting the different perspective that, these professional athletes have. It's really mind blowing.
Yeah. And I'll say this, like, Nate is a great guy. I had, having the chance to talk with him. I won't get into like anything too much that he talked to me off screen, but one funny thing that did happen before we walked out on stage was that, Becca was making the announcement of saying like, oh, tonight's host, today, the people moderating the event, it's Brian Costa and Carter Santos. They gave like a little bit of a backstory on us. And then as she's reading the bio for Nathan Eovaldi and, says his name, he points at himself and he goes, "That's me." I saw immediately, like all my nerves just kind of like went out the window at that point. I was like, okay, this is going to be great. And it was. We went out there, had like a nice like little 45-minute discussion, had a little 15-minute Q&A. It was a ton of fun. And, I'm super thankful for Nate, his agent, all those people that came out here and made this a great event. Yeah.
Yeah. It must've been a great opportunity. I wish I could have been in attendance, but
sure.
I was absolutely swamped with, play stuff and, all the homework and every other, student, responsibilities that I have.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, we'll talk about the Red Sox in a little bit, something going on with them. I know we're not going to necessarily get into Nathan Eovaldi too much. I know he did decline the qualifying offer. We can touch on that briefly, but, we'll mainly touch on Xander Bogaerts towards the end of the show. But I wanted to start things off, with the most recent storyline, and that was this Sunday in the NFL. Oh my God. We had some amazing games and we had some history be made too. So the first game I want to talk about obviously is the Buffalo Bills Minnesota Vikings game. At this point, it's game of the year. It was awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. It's either that or Bills Chiefs from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I honestly, Bills Vikings, what more can you ask from a game? A close game goes to overtime, 2 ridiculous catches. If you put that Stephon Diggs catch against almost any other catch, throughout the entire league this year, everyone would be like, wow, that's catch of the year.
Yeah.
And then it gets topped in its own game because Justin Jefferson decides, no, I can't let Diggs have this spotlight. Give me that.
4th and 18, double coverage. Hail Mary. I mean, listen, that wasn't a Hail Mary, but it's the closest thing to a Hail Mary at that point. Kirk just throws it up there and just says, F it. Jettis is down there somewhere. Hopefully he reels it in. And my goodness, he reeled in a great one. That was, I think when I saw the Odell Beckham Jr. catch, my jaw dropped. The same thing happened here. I was like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in all of sports. And here's the thing. The Bills defender, he could have just shoved him. He could have he was going up to catch the ball. That was the part that, kind of like took me out of it a little bit. I was like, dude, what are you doing? all you have to do with there is just go in like a wacky waving and tube man and just freaking knock that thing down. And I don't know why that didn't happen.
Especially on 4th and 18.
Yeah.
You don't have to pick it off. You don't have to intercept it.
It just has to hit the ground.
Honestly, if it hits the ground, you get better field position than if you intercept it.
Yes.
So just knock the ball away, kind of like, what are you doing?
No, yeah, there was obviously that. And I was like, what are they doing? And then, the craziness continues. They go down to the goal line and it gets to 4th and goal again. There are interference penalties, things like that. And Kirk Cousins falls short on the 1 yard line. I was like, oh, well, like, classic Vikings. This is, what they do, always a step short, ironically. That's just how they are. And I was like, man, I feel for one of my co-hosts, Tyler Tucker, right now. Cause that's what happens to, he's a Vikings fan and he's just used to that at this point. So I was like, wow, that really sucks. And then the craziest thing ever happens where Josh Allen tries to QB sneak the ball out of the end zone and the center forgets that you have to snap the ball to the quarterback. Zeke, didn't you play center?
I didn't play center. I played right guard. That's what it defensive was. Tackle. But, I've been around offensive line and defensive line play pretty much my entire football playing career. And that is such an incredible brain fart that I don't think I've even I haven't seen like that sort of play since Pop Warner, where there was a kid who was in the middle of a play, just went down and went to tie his cleat. So like that's the level of like incompetence that we're talking about. We're talking about Pop Warner stuff from the NFL.
Yeah, and I know a bunch of people they were saying stuff like, "Oh, they should have just cleared Josh Allen out of the backfield and snapped it into the goalpost." I don't think you should have done that because then it makes it a 2-point game. A field goal beats you. That's not what you do there. You're like,
no, the QB sneak is not a bad call in that scenario as long as it's well executed. But
especially since it's generally considered the easiest play in all of football. It's just snap to the quarterback, let him go. That's all it is usually.
It not only is it super easy, but you also are snapping it to Josh Allen, who is a big, strong, tall quarterback who can literally just lean forward and get you a couple yards away from the end zone.
Of all the quarterbacks, it should be him to get you out of that end zone, at least get you to like the 2 or the 3 yard line. Like nothing crazy, but he didn't even have that opportunity. It falls on the ground. And it was funny. I was watching the game with my brother. And before, like, as the play happens, like he saw Kirk get stopped short and he's like, all right, I got to like run to like this soccer game or something. So he goes, all right, I'm going to use the bathroom. And he walks out the thing and he like me and my dad are like going ballistic. And like, he's like, what happened? Was it a safety? I was like, no, he fumbled the ball, touchdown. He goes, you got to be kidding me. So that was obviously, one of the crazier things in history. My dad grew up a Giants fan, so he's very familiar with the Herm Edwards fumble recovery. When the Giants tried to run it and just run out the clock and running back fumbles.
Oh, the miracle at the Meadowlands.
Yep. Yeah. So like,
I don't believe it.
Exactly.
I don't believe.
So I was watching that. I was like, wow, that's what he must have felt like. It must have been like the most like deflating thing, and it was like I couldn't believe that I saw it happen. As a Pats fan, I was fist bump and I was like, this is gonna be great.
You gotta be happy about that.
Yeah.
Now, and then reminder, we are on Thanksgiving Day playing Minnesota. So
yeah, I think there might be a revenge game coming our way, which I'm kind of nervous about, to be frank with you. I am nervous that it's going to be kind of like the Bryant basketball team. They're going to play Syracuse, and I wish them the best of luck, but it's going to be their first really difficult game of the season. The next game they play D3 Framingham State. So it's going to be something like that. And I'm not saying that the Patriots are a D3 team, but we're obviously of lesser competition right now than the Buffalo Bills. Maybe the Pats can figure things out after the bye week, but Bill Belichick's definitely going to need to do some of his magic right here.
Although I will say on the subject that when you there are some times where you kind of like put all your eggs in one basket and you go like extremely like put almost all your effort into one game. And then there's that next week is kind of like a letdown spot.
Yeah.
And there's a college football podcast that I listen to, The Solid Verbal. They talk about like letdown spots and everything like that, where, after a big game and all the emotion of a big game, the next game on the schedule might sneak up on you. And I'm not going to say that the Vikings have a letdown spot against the Patriots, but I would not be surprised. Okay. It is going to be primetime Kirk.
Yeah. So yeah, there is that, Kirk Cousins between 1 and 6 PM. God.
He's pretty darn good.
No, but then like you said, it gets to prime time, and it's the same thing that used to happen with Andy Dalton back when he was kind of like in his heyday. it's just switch flips in the wrong kind of way, and he just doesn't perform. So especially going into a short week, like you said, games creeping up on you, having only 4 days to prepare. No, not that. My bad. Yeah, this is next week, so my apologies.
Even still, I'm not sure. Do we know if do they have a bye week this week?
I don't know if they have a bye week, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna go check right now, but
I mean, still though, the Pats, they can probably look at what Buffalo did and what they were successful at.
No bye week. They're playing the Cowboys this week.
Okay, so that's an interesting one too. They just came off a loss to the Packers, and the Packers for most of the season have looked dead. So I'd say that honestly could be the letdown game where the Cowboys are probably frustrated that Aaron Rodgers got him again, and they're going to be out for revenge. So I think that's going to be a game that we're really going to have to look at there. So I don't know. When I look at the Pats, though, they're coming out of this bye week. They're playing this Sunday. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to end up doing. So far this season, it's been kind of a letdown so far. We managed to kind of get back to 500, play some decent football so far. But I don't know. How do you think we're going to come out of this bye week?
I mean, we're playing against the Jets. We played against them. What was it? 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago at this point. We kind of know what to expect with the Jets.
Sure.
And they played some good football so far this year.
I agree with that. And what I'm nervous about too is the fact that when Zach Wilson, threw those picks in that game, and it was like, oh my God, like, he's falling apart. Like the Pats have Zach Wilson figured out. He did say in that press conference, all right, we'll see him in 2 weeks. We're gonna get this thing right. And along the way, they had that crazy win over the Buffalo Bills. Sauce Gardner knocked down that heat from Allen, and Allen got hurt. So I really think that like the Jets are going to be a very interesting team,
especially you look at kind of adding talent through the draft. The Jets definitely added a lot of talent through 100%. Now I do still have some questions with the Jets roster.
Sure.
I have some questions with the Pats roster, especially at offensive coordinator. I'm not a huge fan of what the Patriots are doing there. I think you kind of gotta, make some changes, make some edits in the offseason, get someone else at offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Matt Patricia has not been my guy so far. He's been quite the thorn in my side. I'm not a big Matt Patricia guy. He's in my opinion, ruined Mac Jones. Same thing with Joe Judge. I understand that Joe Judge has worked with quarterbacks before Mac came into the program, but it's just not working. These guys were failed experiments in other cities, and Bill's bringing them back because someone else is paying their salary for them. Like that's it at this point. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Rule is on this coaching staff in a little bit because Carolina's paying for him.
Like it reaches a point where you kind of gotta acknowledge that it's not working. And right now, whatever's happening with the Pats coaching staff, frankly, in my opinion, is not working.
No.
You look at, you expect to be, there to be some sort of maybe natural regression, but this isn't natural.
Yeah.
This is
this is a steep drop off.
It's expedited.
Yeah. Cause I mean, listen, some guys there is an adjustment period that guys need to make in year 2. Guys get figured out, and it's like, all right, I can't, resort to these old habits anymore. Other teams study that now and they're ready for it. I need to now kind of instead of just going on my first read, I need to be able to pump fake and go the other way.
Yeah.
So I understand that there's different things that, guys go through in their years, but, Mac Jones, this isn't a normal drop off. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge have accelerated this. And listen, I know that Bill Belichick isn't an offensive guy. He needs to be put in charge of the offense right now, because he's the only guy I think with a level head that can probably right the ship now. And I'm losing faith in Belichick each day with the way this team is looking, but we need to do something.
I haven't fully jumped off of the Belichick bandwagon.
And I'm not either. I'm not jumping off the bandwagon, but I'm definitely more cautious than I've ever been.
No, absolutely. I feel like his decision making wise, it's not going great, right? You bring back Patricia, you bring back Judge. They played certain roles on your teams before. Patricia's a former defensive coordinator, Judge, former special teams coordinator. And yet, when you look at what they're doing now, they're kind of playing out of position, if you will. They are filling roles that they were not initially filling during their tenure.
Matt Patricia defensively, I have no issues with him. I think he's a good DC.
I think he's a pretty solid DC.
I think he was handed a bad deal in the Detroit Lions, but Dan Campbell is kind of figuring some things out with them now. But listen, they don't have a ton of talent. I'm not really going to say that Matt Patricia was going to turn them into a contender in the time that he was there, but defensively, that's his specialty. And I think that you need to get him back. You need to get him back on that side of the ball. Joe Judge, I think, is still an excellent special teams coach. When the Packers had that loss to the 49ers in the playoffs, I said they need to hire Joe Judge right now. That was my first reaction to that.
Yeah, they're not. This is nothing against Patricia and Judge as coaches when they're in their.
They don't have the experience.
Spots.
They don't have the experience.
But they don't hire an offensive coordinator who doesn't coordinate an offense or hasn't coordinated.
It's never been done before. Seeing a guy go from like one side of the ball on offense to defense, I think as a coordinator, it probably happens at smaller levels, like guys who might go from a tight ends coach to a linebackers coach if they know enough and do stuff like that. But I don't think we've seen it at this level where a guy actually was a coordinator for one position and is now calling plays for the other side of the ball. I don't think we've seen that before.
And quite frankly, I think we can say that it hasn't really worked out.
No. I mean, listen, the Pats lucked out. They have the final spot in the playoffs right now. If the season was to end today, they're the 7th seed. They'd be facing Miami, I believe. So listen, they have a shot. I think that if Belichick can right this ship and get these guys all playing together and, get the receivers that, Mac was having success with last year, back involved with this offense, I think we can make a push for the playoffs. The division, listen, I understand that the Bills are faltering. This division's going nowhere. The Dolphins can make a bid, but this division belongs to Buffalo.
Yeah. You have to, even with the Vikings loss, you have to kind of, add in the caveat that we knew going into it, Josh Allen was hurting.
Yeah.
What was it? UCL?
Yeah, it's a UCL. It's the ulnar collateral ligament, typically the ligament that pitchers tear. So it's Tommy John essentially.
Yeah. He's playing through injury. He's obviously not at his best health wise. You have to take that into account. This Bills team still has far more talent. Mm-hmm. They, you look back last year on the Pats team that made the playoffs. We couldn't stop them at all. Didn't stop them once. So this division is not ours.
It's not wide open. No,
it's not ours yet. I think if Jones develops, if Belichick kind of goes back to, maybe even like early to mid 2010s, Belichick. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we're fine.
Yeah, the Charlie Weiss, Josh McDaniels offense. Run that type of football. I don't know what they've been doing recently. They're having, Mac Jones kind of scramble out the pocket. And I'm like, listen, I get that Mac Jones is kind of, a bigger guy. He's not necessarily built like Josh Allen, but he's, a bigger guy. He's not running around like Josh Allen. That's not his forte. I don't know why you're, having these, designed things where the O-line is failing and he has to kind of make up the ground with his legs. That's not what Mac Jones is going to be good for. He's going to get killed.
Exactly. You have to play to your players' strengths. Mm-hmm. And, right now, in terms of mobility, I hate to say it, but Mac Jones, although he's more mobile than Brady ever was, he's closer to Brady's mobility than he is to Allen's.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I think that he's probably, if anything, similar to a Big Ben. I think it's either Big Ben or like a slower Drew Brees. Those are like the two comps that I've seen, and I kind of like those comps. Yeah. Like he doesn't play like Brady. He kind of plays similar to Ben Roethlisberger.
His skill set was never going to be his legs. Mm-hmm. It was always going to be his ability to process defenses quickly and to throw an accurate football.
Yeah. My dad always, he had this comparison for Mac Jones, and it is scary accurate. I'll have to show you some clips after the show, but he ended up saying that Mac Jones is literally Chad Pennington. I don't know if you've I was kind of questioning it a little bit too, but then but he ended up saying with the way he throws the ball, it's a slow ball. It's accurate, but it doesn't have that zip that guys like Allen and Herbert have where, it's out of his hand and it's right there. It's kind of a little bit more of an arc, a little more lollipop-ish, and it gets there. But, I watched some clips of some highlights, at least, of Chad Pennington, and it's like the same thing. It is scary.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So I'll show you some clips of that after the show. But, you were talking about Tom Brady. I want to talk about Brady right now because he is, it looks like he's turning back the clock, kind of getting back to his old self. Listen, he started off the year terrible. He was like 3-5. The team was not in a good place. He seemed checked out. And I even said it. I was like, Brady is not invested right now. Why did he come back to the NFL and, ruin, everything outside his life? I don't want to get into it, but, he is 2-0 now since he is now 2-0 post Giselle divorce. So there is that, I saw this game happen in Germany, and I tuned in a little bit towards the end. It was pretty early, so to be fair, but he's looking like he's really turning it around. This team's back at 500. He's getting guys like Julio Jones involved in the offense, who for a while had kind of been frozen out. So, what do you think about this Bucs team? Do you think they have a shot to turn around, host a playoff game?
I mean, yeah, it's a weak division,
Yes.
right? The NFC South was never one of those divisions where you were saying, "Oh my gosh, it's stacked." It's not the AFC East.
No, it's incredibly top heavy.
And right now, so pretty much it's wide open. The Bucs pretty much control their own destiny as long as they turn it around, and it looks like they have.
Yeah.
I feel like they could make a significant push towards hosting a playoff game and being one of the division winners. Now, my thing about Brady is people have to realize football, as much as it is about physical strength and athleticism and everything like that, it's just as much a mental game.
Yep.
You really have to have your mind fully committed to everything, and especially quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady is one of the greatest of all time. That's almost non-arguable.
It's not arguable. He's the greatest ever.
He's the greatest of all time, and not really for his athleticism. Let's be honest here. He's not hyper athletic.
No, he ran like a 5'2". He ran like a 5'2", 40.
He doesn't run fast.
No,
he
never
doesn't
has.
throw extremely fast.
He doesn't throw like those balls that Herbert and those guys throw.
Yeah, he's not an athletic freak, and he quite frankly never has been. That was never his strength. His strength was always his mental game. It was always reading the defenses. It was always making the right read, kind of evading pressure, kind of like reading, understanding where the safeties are going to be, everything like that. So when you have someone whose skill set is really mental and his mind's not there, his mind is somewhere else, thinking about kind of familial drama or anything like that.
Yeah.
Your team is going to struggle.
Yeah. And the physical traits, like you said, they're not going to make up for your mental woes. Like, it's going to have an impact on you.
And you could argue that physical traits could theoretically make up for
but not for him. But not for him.
Not for him.
Especially now, 45 years old. If tell me this 10 years ago, yeah, I'd say maybe. And I mean, listen, was Brady a freak back then? No, but I think he definitely had a lot more poise, and probably, being in that Belichick system, he probably could have locked in a lot better. Tampa Bay, it's a lot more free flowing, and being in that Florida sun, like all the drama down there, that's going to fuel a lot.
Again, it's not only that it's free flowing, but it's also, you have, again, he's 45, right? You can't just expect a 45-year-old to get out of things with his athleticism.
No.
You tell me Lamar Jackson's going through something, and maybe he can break off a couple runs and kind of like get himself back into the W column, because his athletic traits to some extent are just as important as his mental skills.
Sure.
Brady is almost the exact opposite. His athletic skills are
but here's the thing though. It's really difficult to get Brady off mentally.
Yeah.
Like for him to be not focused, like that's the thing. Like he's dealt with distractions throughout his career. Like he's had like the Deflategate nonsense, a lot of other things, like his first marriage blew up, and before he met Giselle, and he's had a ton of different things happen to him in his career. And so it's not like he's never battled with adversity mentally. He always has, and physically as well. But it's the fact that, it was at this level, he knows, I mean, he retired last year, so that's a very emotional thing to do and then come back from. And then to have it be like, oh, my family doesn't want to do this, it's not going to end well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's to me, it just seems like in order to really kind of get these Buccaneers kind of back into it, it really relies mostly on Tom Brady. And it was going to. It was going to rely mostly on Tom Brady.
And here's the thing that's crazy. Nick Wright, I saw on, I think it was on ESPN, or Fox. He pointed this out to me. He not to me, but he pointed it out on his show. And he ended up saying Tom Brady could go 8-9 this year, win the division, and then have a home playoff game where he faces Daniel Jones, then goes to face Kirk Cousins in prime time, and then either has, most likely like Jimmy Garoppolo on the other side of that. So it's like, so he was saying like, he's going to make his 11th Super Bowl with a losing record. What are the freaking odds? And I think he's got a good shot at that. I think that, if this team really does come together, the 49ers aren't perfect. They have their issues. I mean, Christian McCaffrey has been a solid ad for them so far, but the Rams too are having their issues. Cooper Kupp just went to the IR. So I think Tom Brady could really make a run.
Yeah, the NFC is pretty wide open.
Which is crazy because just like, think about it. Years ago, when Brady was with the Pats, the NFC was a buzzsaw. You couldn't get out of it. It was like there's no shot that a team is going to be in the Super Bowl twice. And then the Seahawks did it, and it was like, wow, like, applauds to them. Like here we go. Like that's awesome because it is tough to make it out of that conference. So it's definitely not an easy thing. You saw so many different teams be in it every year. And it's it's a wild division to get out. It used to be a wild conference to get out of. That's now shifted, and the Pats are trying to think like, okay, if we carry the 3, maybe we can make the playoffs. And it's like, oh boy,
AFC is very very much the kind of the division where the conference where everything's going down.
Yeah,
every single division has great teams, at least a couple great teams that are really battling it out for the division crown. Except for the AFC South, but the AFC South is kind of you could argue that the Titans are good. But you have at AFC East, you have Bills, you have Dolphins, you have Patriots. You even can argue the Jets this year. That's 4 teams that are all, I would say, fairly good. AFC North, you have Bengals, you have the Ravens. Browns might be good with Deshaun Watson coming back. We don't know. And then, AFC West, you have the Chargers. It's hard to count Herbert out, really. You have the Chiefs, Broncos and Raiders are kind of,
but like you said, though, it is pretty loaded, and it's going to be a tough journey for the Pats to get there. So I'm hoping that they can pull it together, but the Bucks are definitely in a good spot. And, they had that big win on Sunday. It was at 9:30 from Germany. Man, that was an awesome looking game.
But I'll tell you what, though, the Seahawks have been really impressive this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially everyone was expecting them to go. What was it like? So I saw some people saying 0-17. That was an overreaction.
That was an overreaction.
But people were saying 3-14. They're going to go maybe 4-13, something like that.
Yeah, they were going to be in the top.
Top 10 draft pick, kind of in the basement of the NFL, if you will. And how about Geno Smith, man?
Oh my God, he's
playing
awesome.
out of his mind. He's playing back like he was West Virginia.
Yeah, not even with the Jets, like literally back like he was in college. Like he has looked amazing so far. So he's done a great job. I'm really psyched to see what he's been doing.
I've unfortunately gone on the record to be a Drew Lock supporter as a former a current Missouri Tiger fan.
Sure.
Lock being a former Missouri quarterback. Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of potential, and I still think there is a lot of potential there, but I don't think the Seahawks is where he'll kind of get some playing time.
It ain't happening.
Geno's just playing really well.
Geno is locked in. That's the headline. Geno is locked in. Drew ain't. Like that. That's a thing. Geno has been going out there and has been dominating. So, he's kind of a late bloomer, which is kind of funny.
Like, call me washed. I ain't right back.
I love that. I loved that line when he said that. But, the game in Germany was awesome. They were selling these big old beers. Like it was crazy. Like they had like brats and stuff in the stadium. It was a great atmosphere there. I mean, did you see them all singing Country Roads by John Denver?
Yeah.
That was great.
There's so many, Europe is definitely like one of those markets where I feel like the NFL is definitely going to try to tap into it more. But as of right now, we have London games, we have the Germany game.
Mexico City.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think I saw a report that they're gonna try to tap into maybe like Spain and.
Okay. Well, I saw one thing I saw too is that they might have 2 games in Germany next year, and they might have one in Frankfurt, and then one where they had it this year. Where'd they have it again? What was the game? I wasn't Munich? Frankfurt. Yeah, it was Munich. Yes, yeah. Munich. So they'd have one game in Frankfurt, and they were saying put the Pats in Frankfurt, and then they ended up saying the other game could be in Munich since Germany's so big. I was like, that could work out really well.
I'm fine with it. Grow your international audience, get kind of like a more international players and everything like that as well.
Oh yeah, it could definitely be a ton of fun. So I'm excited to see what comes next for the NFL in Europe. But we're gonna jump into the NBA now, and this was a topic I wanted to cover last week, but due to my absence, I didn't have the chance to. And last time I was on the show, I was talking about how Ime Udoka was going to become the next coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And then the Nets turned around and they said, nope, we're not. We're going against everything we said there. He will not be the next coach of the team. They ended up hiring Jacques Vaughn to become the next coach. And, they seem to be doing all right now. Still, obviously, some drama with Kyrie and, people saying that Ben Simmons doesn't look like he's invested. So, gotta watch out for them. It's always an interesting thing over there.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the Celtics, their kind of team and their roster and the talent that they've acquired over the past couple seasons, they're all coming together. I mean, the Celtics are playing some really inspired, really good basketball right now. They're, I believe, atop the Atlantic.
I believe so.
And you look at the Nets, and you can't really say the same thing. And that I understand why they why they wanted to maybe bring in Ime Udoka, winning.
I totally see the appeal.
Yeah, he brought his team to the NBA Finals just last year.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to realize that there's
a history there now.
There's a history there.
And but here's the thing. I don't think if Kyrie Irving doesn't say the thing he says, Ime Udoka is the next coach of the Nets. There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't doubt that either.
Yeah. I mean, Kyrie Irving screwed this over. And if you're Ime Udoka, listen, I think he was scummy for doing what he did, and he definitely messed up. But I'd be looking over at Kyrie Irving. I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me, man. You cost me a job. Like, yeah, and to be on a pretty decent team too. I mean, I flame the Nets every now and then, but they have
talent.
Yeah, they have the talent. It's there. And I think if anyone could have tapped into it, it would have been Ime.
And now, because of controversy, you can't.
No.
And it's always frustrating to me when you see the potential that's squandered because there's controversy involved. And now, it's not just that because he's a talented coach, but now he has controversy behind him. He had controversy behind him before the hire.
But now it's the fact that, a team turned away from you and their owner was pressured not to hire you. A lot of people are going to read because your controversy was so bad. Again, I think it's the Kyrie thing, but a lot of people end up saying, wow, this Ime thing must be really serious for the Nets to back out. And, I think it's going to be a lot harder for him now to get a job.
Well, I think that, if it wasn't for Kyrie also having a controversy, you can't have two controversies going on at the same time. That's
in the same week.
That's a horrible look for your organization. Just terrible.
Yeah.
So, one controversy you can maybe manage, but if you have two at the same time,
those press conferences would be, you would never get a break. You're never getting an easy question. Like, it's never happening. You're never going to get, hey, Kyrie, how you feeling about the game coming up? You're not getting that. It's going to become a media circus. And I think that, they're just trying to bury this now and say, oh, yeah, we were never interested. We're just going to step back and get away from it now.
And especially, Brooklyn, it's New York City. It's a media circus already.
Oh, yeah.
And, you can hardly have one controversy. You definitely can't have two.
No, it's a nightmare. You can't do it. This makes me wonder, though, a lot of Celtics players, when Ime got fired, voiced their displeasure with the team, and they had their statements. Jason Tatum ended up saying, like, oh, like, I actually may not have been Tatum. It might have been Smart. And he might've been like, oh man, I'm really disappointed in this thing. Like, apparently what he did was so bad that he can't coach here, but anywhere else. So like, what's going on? And then, Jaylen Brown ended up saying like, hey, like, this really sucks. I'm glad Ime's getting another shot, but like, what's going on here? So I don't know. Do you think the Celtics players try to get in that room and talk to Brad Stevens and, try to push him to bring Ime Udoka back? I don't want it. I think it's a media circus for the Nets. The Celtics were to tell a guy, hey, get lost. And then, oh yeah, we're going to bring you back. You're never hearing the end of it. I don't think there's a shot in hell that it happens, but do you think the players at least get in Brad's ear?
I say, you kind of look to see what happens, right? The season, hot start, but if later down the line, Celtics really cool off, maybe be kind of like low seed in the playoffs, and
sure,
maybe get eliminated first round or something like that. Maybe you look and you're like, okay, this is our window. We have to act now. Bring in
and just accept the controversy.
Yeah, accept the controversy because that Ime can get the best out of the players.
Mm-hmm.
But if everything continues as it's going right now, Celtics looking like they're going to get a high seed in the playoffs. They get a high seed in the playoffs. They maybe make it at least the conference championship game or something like that. I don't think you bring Ime back.
Yeah.
I feel like, you hate to kind of like dismiss, personal things for the sake of success, but that's sports. That's sports is a business at the end of the day. And you have to make business decisions. And what the business decision that needs to be made is how are you going to win? Like I would love it if everyone was all great people and working together.
Doesn't work like that.
Sunshine and rainbows.
That's
not real life.
No.
That's not happening. And I wish it would, but it's not going to happen. So if you can find, like, if things don't go well, I think they bring Ime back.
Okay.
I honestly do. If things, and that depends on your version of going well, depends on your version of success. But if you're Brad Stevens and your team has a young talent core that is slowly going to get more and more expensive, the longer you have, you're in a bit of a time crunch. You're in a bit of a short window.
Now, let me ask you this. In the case that things were to go really well, and like the Celtics, they're like cruising right now, like everything's going good, do you pull the interim tag on Mazzulla?
Yeah.
You would say, like, midseason, if they're cruising, they're the number one seed, they're going good. Do you pull that on them and, eliminate the hope of Ime coming back?
Well, it depends on, I wouldn't, maybe not mid-season, but maybe later on in the season, if things are still going well for, I would say, a solid 3/4 of the season, why not pull the interim tag? You have someone who's got the roster together, who's kind of like got them all playing on the same page. They're playing really good basketball right now. Again, if that same kind of streak extends further on to the season, why not pull the interim tag?
I mean, I'll say this. I'm actually on the opposite side as you. I would say that if they're going to pull it, don't wait into the season. Get it over with and do it as soon as you can. Because if they pull it and, like, the Celtics, they're not happy with it, it's like they can work that out. They can have a little bit of a losing, like, stretch and be like, okay, listen, get your acts together. Joe's the coach. Deal with it. That's what they can do. They can end up saying, listen, Joe Mazzulla is the coach of this team. That's what he's going to do. And you guys have to deal with that. And they can, have their little, they can, fight over it. They can think what they want to think. But at the end of the day, Joe Mazzulla is going to be the coach.
Yeah.
And, like, eventually they'll click and they'll get it back together. If they wait later into the season and then they end up saying, hey, by the way, Mazzulla is going to be the coach next year, they're going to end up going like, why are you pulling it now? Like, why didn't you wait? Like, why didn't you do this earlier and give us time to, like, react to this? And I don't think it's the biggest thing pulling the interim tag, but I definitely think that, knowing this Celtics team and knowing how, I like to say, they're heady and they're, like, in their own head and they overthink a lot of things. I think if they pull this tag, too late in the season, it's going to mess with them and could impact their playoff run.
Yeah, I can see that. But at the same time, I feel like if things, like, really take a turn, then, you don't want to have someone who you pulled the interim tag on. You don't want to have your new bright, sparkly head coach to kind of be, underperforming and then have people question. I mean, people were already before the season even started, began kind of questioning why this guy.
Yeah.
Because, he's younger than Al Horford, right? He's very, very young in terms of being a coach. So you already have those kind of questions behind that. If you pull the interim tag, be like, here's our head coach moving forward, and he starts to struggle. I don't see that. I see a media circus coming up.
Sure.
So I feel like it really depends on your kind of philosophy on, how important is the word interim here. And,
I think for the Celtics, it's really important. I think those players, I think they're really invested like that. I think they read between the lines. I think that's who they are. And until they get over that championship hump, and they were close, and I think that something clicked last year, I was going to say that they're past it. But with this Ime cloud and all that stuff that's happened, I think they can play great right now. But I'm eerie. I'm like watching. I'm very watchful of this. Yeah. But before we do leave, Zeke, there is one more topic I want to talk about. It is in MLB news, and this has been a topic that's been building for the past couple weeks now, and it is what is going to happen with Xander Bogaerts. The Red Sox, they offered him I think it was the qualifying offer, easily turned that away and said, I'm not accepting that. I want a real contract. And throughout the season, the Sox have been offering Xander deals, and he's been turning it down. And it feels like they're always just a step short. Like they're always like a step behind what the player actually wants. And, we've seen this before with John Lester. We've seen this with Mookie Betts. And it inevitably leads us to trading them or letting them go at the end of the season. With both of those guys, they were traded. But, it makes I really do wonder what is going to be next for Bogaerts, because, he's approaching 30, and, let's be honest here, most 30-year-old shortstops tend to go downhill after this. So if you're the Red Sox, do you give him the money he wants?
That's a really tough question. And, it's a tough spot that the organization's been put in.
Sure.
But I think that, because right now with your cap situation, you can't have both Bogaerts and Devers.
No.
That's not really, possible.
Well, here's the thing. No, I kind of want to call some BS on that. The way Chaim Bloom is running the team, yes, you cannot have Bogaerts and Devers. Put Dave Dombrowski back in charge of this team. Put even Theo Epstein back in charge of this team when, those guys were being brought in. Both of those guys would be signed by now. I don't really have a doubt on that. I think that it would have gotten done.
Well, with the state of the team now.
Yes, and I think we're playing cheap, which I don't get. We're the third, most valuable franchise in all of baseball. We have the money to spend with the Yankees and the Dodgers, but we're choosing not to. So I would say that the decision, it shouldn't be based upon money. It should be based upon the performance you think you're going to get out of Xander Bogaerts. If they go and they let go of Xander Bogaerts and they sign Trey Turner to like a big deal, I'll be honest with you, I'll be disappointed, but I'll at least be able to say like, all right, well, we at least had a plan. We got a replacement. But if this turns into, we're going to let go of Xander Bogaerts, we're going to move Trevor Story over to shortstop, which I've been saying that they're going to do for a while now. And then Manuel Valdez or like one of our other prospects, just, whose position list just slides into second base. I'm going to be a little angry with that, because at that point, Chaim's building the Tampa Bay Rays 2.0. And I don't want that. We have the money to not, be forced to play Moneyball. I think we can do it in some certain, circumstances and try to, for like, end of the roster guys get the best value. But for top of the line guys that are in your lineup every night making a difference for you, we shouldn't be doing that.
No, and that was never, that was never my intention to kind of like put it out there. But with the way the Red Sox are kind of managing their cap situation, that's a reality of the situation. You can't really say, hey, the Red Sox are going to, kind of throw cash against the wall to get both Bogaerts and Devers on the same team. I just don't see them doing that.
No.
And
do you think they'll let go of Bogaerts and actually pay Devers though? That's the thing. Do you think if Bogaerts walks, will they give Devers a legit contract?
I think so.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Okay.
I feel like if you're prioritizing the two of them, I think Devers is the one that you got to keep. Mm-hmm. Like I
hope that's what they do, but knowing their pattern, like, are they going to just lowball Devers out the gate and he's going to get pissed off and he's going to go like, listen, you traded away Christian Vazquez, you traded away Mookie. He didn't really have too much of a connection with John Lester, but if he says you also let go of Xander, like, why am I supposed to like take these like, hometown friendly discounts from you if you've lowballed everyone else and you obviously have the money in your pockets?
Yeah. I feel like at that point, like if you don't pay Xander, you have to give Devers.
You have to give him a legit contract too. It has to be able to rival like what other teams will pay.
Yeah. And honestly, if I was the Red Sox, I would pay Devers that money.
Yeah.
He's
legit. He's the guy.
He is your star. He's your star. You're not going to let him walk to another team. No. You can't.
No. I get that he has his defensive woes at third base, but he's a damn good hitter and he really hits the ball, and he's just still coming into his own. I think he has a chance to be like one of those impact players across like generational talent type guys.
Yeah, I say you keep Devers. You maybe bring up Jeter Downs from. But
he's had his issues too.
He's had his issues, sure, but one of the top prospects in AAA, at least that's what he was kind of said to be. So if he had that potential once, I feel like should still have that potential.
I agree.
And then, you have Story at second. And I mean, there you go. I don't know. It really all depends on how much you trust in you could even throw money at a free agent shortstop if you want.
Yeah.
If you don't trust Downs, fine. Throw money at a free agent shortstop or trade for a shortstop, something. But like you said, once shortstops turn 30 years old,
most of the time the production's not getting any better.
Yeah, you're not going to get as much bang for your buck, especially when said shortstop is requesting a lot of money and will not
Yes.
take your qualifying off.
No, he's not gonna. And listen, I don't blame him for that. I think that he has every right to demand what he wants to demand, but still does definitely scare you. I won't say that. I'm definitely still a little nervous as to what's going to happen here. My faith in Chaim Bloom is out the door. So, hopefully listen, from the way it was described to me, we got rid of Mookie Betts so we could bring back Xander Bogaerts and Rafi Devers. Now we're going to let one of them walk too. It's like, okay, like we actually need to get our priorities straight. And I hope that, John Henry does eventually make the move. I saw that he sold off Liverpool. So maybe he's trying to get out of the ownership game, and, potentially that could lead to us bringing in some big stars to really hike up the price of this team. So I'm definitely intrigued. Hopefully we can do some stuff like that going forward. But Zeke, we are unfortunately now down to the wire, which means that we're going to go through what we talked about in the show and send all you beautiful people on your way. So Zeke, thank you so much for coming back on the show. It was great to have you.
It was great to be here again.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, on the show today, we broke down, stuff in the NFL and NBA and MLB, such as the Vikings, great victory over the Buffalo Bills. Tom Brady starting to look like his old self. And then in NBA news, we talked about the state of the Brooklyn Nets with them deciding not to hire Ime Udoka. In MLB news, we talked about what's going to happen next for Xander Bogaerts. So it was a great show, Zeke. I really was happy to have you here. But from down the wire, actually, before we go down the wire, I do want to say this. If you're not following us yet on social media, what are you guys doing? You can follow us on all social media platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those streaming services. You can watch the video stream of this show on YouTube, and you can follow us on Instagram at down.tothewire. Now, from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Zeke Kransdorf.
And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. That was a little voice crack.
Yeah.
Take care and peace out.